it's a difficult situation. Geordie Journo's back inside the Newcastle United Media Centre for once. We're usually out the back, inside today, got a bit more time. Me and Jordan have been speaking to Eddie Howe along with the rest of the North East press pack, ahead of the trip to Chelsea in the Premier League on Sunday. Where do you want to start, Jordan? There's only one place usually, but where do you want to start? What are you feeling after speaking to Eddie Howe today?
We'll start with injury news, but is it injury news anymore? Callum Wilson's not going to be back.
I'm shocked.
You're shocked?
I'm stunned that Callum Wilson return has been
yeah.
It's got to the point
I
just feel bad for Callum Wilson now.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of people sitting here saying, yeah, but he's on 80 grand a week or whatever, and I get all that. It must be quite nice to be on that kind of money a week. But mentally, as a footballer, it must be tough for him. And I know people won't buy this, but yeah, this is he hasn't played a competitive game. He hasn't played a game since Australia, and I think even he played 10 minutes. So realistically, his last appearance for Newcastle was 10 minutes off the bench against Brentford, if that, possibly a bit more.
Yeah,
he hasn't played this season. Just seems like, although Eddie Howe doesn't address it as a setback, it seems like it's setback after setback. As I said, I mentioned last week, where first of all it was he'd be back for after the first 3 games, and it was be back after the September international break. Actually, no, he's going to need the October international break.
No,
he's going to be back for Chelsea. Oh no, wait, he's not. He's going to be back for Brighton. Okay, right, he's not back for Brighton. A week later, I hope he's back for Chelsea. No, he's not going to be back for Chelsea. Both games are Arsenal. So, and then after that, it's Forest. Then international break.
I'd be surprised if you see him at Forest, by the way.
I would be as well, because it's almost like, what would be the point in risking him now? He's came so far. What would be the point in putting him out for a game before the international break? He's probably just better actually hopefully trying to get him fit after the November international break, and that is a lot of time out. And we've spoken on previous videos. He's barely kicked the ball this year. He's got some catching up to do in terms of that match sharpness and stuff, and it's became a bit of a it's just became a
farce. Is that too much?
Yeah, I think it's strong, but I'm trying to think of a word. It has in many ways, and I don't want to sound like I'm totally criticising Callum Wilson because I don't believe he wants to be injured.
He's not going out there trying to be injured.
No. But it's just,
he's trying to be fit. But
Callum Wilson has always had his injury problems.
It's on the club though, really, like to manage it, to then also make decisions when they had opportunities to sell Callum Wilson, to actually maybe look into those opportunities. And hindsight is a wonderful thing in that regard, but now it's like Newcastle couldn't get rid of Callum Wilson now for any sort of fee. It's looking like now, because even in January at most he's going to be played in 2024 maybe a dozen games.
I think he started 2 games. As a Forest and Burnley, the 2 games he started this year in the Premier League this year.
He got injured in one and he was very good in the other, to be fair. So quality's there, but it's just we've done videos on Callum Wilson before. It's just a monotonous circle with Callum Wilson where it's like, oh, you'll be great for a few games, get injured, oh, he's going to come back, oh no, it's a little bit delayed. It's always the same thing.
This is the worst. This is the worst Callum Wilson, this injury record with Callum Wilson's had at Newcastle.
Without having a single injury the club have deemed serious. Yeah. It was minor.
He might as well have gone ACL injury.
A hamstring,
the way the amount of period he's been out for.
Well, yeah.
Which he has had them in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's farce maybe strong, but it's certainly
it's a farcical situation.
It is, and I do feel a bit sorry for him. I do, because it mustn't be easy for him. But it's left Newcastle, and as I talk about football being a ruthless business, it's left Newcastle in a difficult situation again. Although Isak is back, but it's just relying on Isak staying fit, and then obviously if Isak doesn't stay fit, and then it's falling back onto Anthony Gordon, and the conversations around will Asula start again. So it's just a constant repeat cycle.
But Alexander Isak fit enough to play the next 3 games according to Eddie Howe, touch wood. I
think he probably has to play the next 3 games as well, though, doesn't he?
Because of the lack of Callum Wilson. Anthony Gordon, you asked him about that left wing, right wing conundrum with Anthony Gordon, where he's almost
he said it was
made himself the left winger.
Yeah, he has. He said it was because I don't know if you get these tweets done, but every time I speak, I tweeted out last week Newcastle need to sign a right winger, and there was a few people tweeted saying Anthony Gordon is a right winger. It was on the Amazon documentary that he was a right forward when they were showing insight around his signing.
You put that to Eddie Howe,
I didn't see that in the Amazon documentary, and I've actually been back and I still didn't spot that on the screen. So yeah, I thought I would put that to him. It's clear though, because he's talking about players taking the opportunities and Harvey Barnes, etc. And Harvey Barnes is the one that's dropping out. Anthony Gordon just doesn't drop out. Anthony Gordon didn't have a very good start of the season, and he still found a way to keep him in the team. It's Harvey Barnes is the fall guy. Rightly or wrongly, I think Anthony Gordon probably has to play. But when you're talking about players deserving places, there has been times this season when Harvey Barnes has deserved over Anthony Gordon, and it hasn't necessarily been the case. Harvey Barnes actually just got in the team because he's had to move Anthony Gordon into the central striker role, or he's tried him on the right hand side. But it's quite clear, and Fulham maybe isn't a great example, but you can look at his body language at Fulham. Anthony Gordon does not want to play down the right hand side. He wants to play on the left hand side, and you've got two players there who both want to play on the left hand side. It's good that you have strength and depth, but you look at Newcastle's best front three on paper, and it's in terms of personnel, it's them three players. But I don't think you can put them in the same team because they both got a preference to play on the left hand side, and they both play the best football on the left hand side.
Yeah, it's true. There's a potential there if you're wanting to try and shoehorn your best players into the starting 11. That is the front three, and it's worked at times, but also very much didn't work at Fulham, and that was almost the last time we've seen it, and will we see it again? I'm not sure, but yeah, Harvey Barnes at the moment, he's a very expensive backup option to Anthony Gordon. So when you're talking about PSR transfers, everything like that, that's another conundrum. But something about Alexander Isak, if we're going back to him, big talking point at the press conference. Anthony Gordon signed a new deal. Then attention turns Alexander Isak, which the club have been in talks regarding a new deal, but those talks, according to a friend of the channel, Craig Hope, now ceased, and Eddie Howe pretty much confirmed that today. It's an interesting situation, with a complex situation, as Eddie Howe put it, regarding Alexander Isak.
Yeah, it is. I mean, is Alexander Isak looking at his contract, 4 years left on his contract, still one of the club's highest paid players, or certainly well paid? Is it a priority? In that sense, you look at the facts there and go, no, probably not. Why do you need to negotiate a new deal for a player that's on a 4-year contract? But I think Newcastle have also set a precedent, and you talk about crown jewels in Newcastle squad: Bruno, Gordon, Isak. 2 of those have signed contracts in the last 12 months. So do you need to show that level of commitment to Isak? I would probably say yes, but as I say, looking at these contract situations, we probably don't need to renew it because you're quite protected there. Ultimately, I think whether Alexander Isak stays at this football club beyond next summer is dependent on whether Newcastle can go and qualify for Europe. I think the only way they can keep him and other players as well is if they show the level of ambition that they want, and that's quite a tough ask for the team this season, because I don't think in the opening 10 games that we've seen, Cup and League, I don't think Newcastle look like a team that's going to go and finish, certainly not in the top 4, and I think they do well to go and finish in the top 6 from what I've seen. Of course it can change like that, and we all hope it can, but it has to change like that, and they have to go and qualify for Europe if you want to avoid awkward conversations next summer of having to sell like an Isak or an Arsenal or a Liverpool, whatever, or all these top European clubs coming in next summer. The only way you can go into the summer keeping Alexander Isak happy and keeping yourself in a strong position is if you show a level of ambition and have the European football to show for it. So it's on Newcastle to show that level of ambition on the pitch to keep players like Isak.
And Eddie Howe also put the onus on the player himself. He said the only way Alexander Isak can improve his situation is by performing well on the pitch. And he noticed he didn't say keep performing well on the pitch. So it's almost like, you've got to earn that new deal as such, which you probably did last season, but when you're already a high earner, PSR is obviously an issue, but a high earner at Newcastle, Alexander Isak's probably going, look, I'm a high earner, extortionate amount of money compared to what we know, but he probably knows in the back of his mind he could play for a lot of other clubs and probably double his money, because Newcastle's wage structure is still, it's a lot of money but still quite tight. We're talking less than 200 grand, whereas he could earn possibly well over that at any other club.
We spoke about it on the Shots TV video and the week about the feel around the football club. And is the feel around the football club matching the ambition? Is the feel around the football club currently showing ambition?
That's the thing. Players will look
Isak.
at the last few transfer windows as well and go, Lloyd Kelly on a free is your marquee summer signing. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You've got to show these players that you mean business. And I think Newcastle, probably over the last 12 months have stagnated. And it would only be right if you like say Isaks and Brunos and go and just sign a new contract to be thinking, well, I've got really high ambitions as a player here. Is this really the right place for me? So the only way that can change is if Newcastle start getting it right on the field. And
it goes back to Isak in the Callum Wilson situation. Isak's been hung out to dry a little bit physically by the lack of support he's had. Where it's like, right, either Callum Wilson will be 1 in every 20 games he might be fit, or 2 in every 20 games. Anthony Gordon, he could play centrally, but then you lose him one of your most effective players in that position on the pitch just to compensate for that. So yeah, it's a difficult situation. And as much as it pains me to say, maybe Newcastle, I'm not saying Isak, but maybe need a sale like that next summer, just to unlock things and just go, right, PSR is not an issue for us for the foreseeable future now. We can actually reinvest that money and really improve the squad and stop the squad stagnating in other areas. Yes, we've got a world-class midfielder, a world-class striker, world-class winger, you could say, borderline in Anthony Gordon. Good defence, but contracts are running out in that situation as well. If you were to sell one of those crown jewels, as you say, as much as people will not like to hear it, that could unlock doors for Newcastle United, and I think that's what Darren Eales, unfortunately, and Paul Mitchell
pretty much said that in the summer, didn't he?
Yeah.
Where he spoke about trading players, and you look at clubs you'd probably compare yourself directly to, and I think Aston Villa will be one of them, because I look at Aston Villa's squad, and we've had this conversation before, but I do think Aston Villa have got a better squad.
Because they sold Jack Grealish for 100 million. And then Douglas Luiz to a lesser extent than Samano, and Newcastle. It's losing one of your best players, and then he was a
key part of the reason why Villa qualified for the Champions League last season. And I think you're looking at Newcastle's squad. There's not really much value beyond the.
We paid 15 million to Villa for Matt Target, man. It's just Newcastle just haven't been able to sell, so it's own fault really. Like the lack of player trading and an ability to get that money to reinvest. It's all been backs against the walls. It's Alan Saint-Maximin, we can get him out to Saudi Arabia. We've absolutely got to get rid of Elliot Anderson, Yankuba. It's never felt like it's really tactical, clever pieces of business. It's been out of necessity.
They only went and sold Alan Saint-Maximin that transfer window because they thought Harvey Barnes was a better player. It's why. Because they went and splashed £55 million on Tonali and were stuck. And they had to go and sell a player to unlock doors, as you said there. And then Harvey Barnes was deemed as a better left forward option. Maybe we'll not have a debate about that in this video. Than Alan Saint-Maximin. And then they went and signed 2 players, which obviously one was on a loan with a £28 million obligation to buy this summer, Lewis Hall.
Great piece of business, Eddie Howe said.
Yeah, and then the other was Tino Livramento, but we've been over the transfer business. I don't think Newcastle have sold, or definitely haven't sold well, and probably over the last 12 months haven't bought well. They haven't bought at all actually in the last
it all 2 goes back windows. To the same things. Yeah,
it does. It does. Tear me out.
Yeah,
as
I'm sure a lot of people are watching.
It's just it just feels like as I said on Monday, the project seems like it's hitting a wall. That's how I feel at this moment. So now I've came to that conclusion talking about Alexander Isak's contract, but
yeah, and we'll see what happens. But Alexander Isak leading the line at Chelsea. He scored home and away against Chelsea last year, so hopefully he can get back amongst the goals.
He needs one
this Sunday at a ground Newcastle.
It's 13 years.
Never do well in, and that was their only Premier League win.
Yeah, I remember it.
Probably should have won there in the Carabao Cup last year, but didn't work out that way. But yeah, Chelsea is an interesting test. It's an important week for Newcastle because Chelsea, Carabao Cup. You're talking about ambitions, keeping players happy. Anthony Gordon comes out, and I thought it was quite a powerful quote from Anthony Gordon saying, we definitely need to win something. That's why I've signed a new deal. He's put the onus on the club to almost match his ambitions.
Champions League as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's I mean you've got these players and they're great, but it's if you don't do the things they want, then they put themselves in a very, very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this previously about players. That's why the season's so important. I think it's probably overlooked in many ways. Where, we're talking about the season so far, and it's and everyone has different opinions. It's like, well, this, that, and that. They're sitting 9th currently in the Premier League. That is not good enough if you want to keep these players.
No, it's
still early
very
days.
early, yeah.
It is still very
But they
early
haven't
days.
shown progress this season.
No, I personally haven't seen anything in the first. I've seen flashes. Sorry, I've seen flashes in the first 10 games that they can go and qualify for Europe. But I don't say that with confidence because I haven't shown that consistently. That they've got the. I know they've got the players and I know they can do it, but I'm not currently seeing it.
Yeah, I said during the week because we were watching the Champions League game and 3 English clubs top of that Champions League thing. I went, hey, that works out well for Newcastle because drop down effect, 8th place suddenly potentially becomes a European place. And I think that's where, based on what we've seen so far, which is subject to a lot of change, that might be where Newcastle are at the moment.
Yeah,
based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want to see Aston Villa do well because after Newcastle's performance last season, what I would say is Aston Villa's games have been.
No, you want to see these teams do well to a degree, but Villa.
It's like the comparison. Villa's the comparison, isn't it? And to be fair, Villa are just in a better place.
Yeah.
A lot of momentum behind them as a football club.
But yeah, the entire format of the competition's just been ruined.
Well, I was looking at Villa's fixtures and it was like Bayern Munich at home is a difficult one, but their next home game, Juventus, which.
I think Villa could come right at the top of that.
When you look at their
fixtures
I think they'll get through in the top 8. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But then the problem is you've got Bayern Munich who've had a stinker of a start, lost 2 of the first 3, still qualifying as it stands. It's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's what I mean. It protects that. It all goes back to that.
How did Bayern Munich get Barcelona and Aston Villa? I mean, Aston Villa probably, as you look at it, aren't as big as. But that's 2 tough games. And Villa and they're opening up. Well, going to be 4 games. They've played Young Boys away, and they're going to play Club Brugge away.
Look at the draw.
And then they've just played Bologna. I don't know, but they're not a big Italian name to me, so
no,
I don't know.
Look at the draw. Mind you, Whitley
it is look at the draw actually because Newcastle didn't have one.
No,
but I prefer that. I'm going on a tangent. I prefer that Champions League format. The one last year.
Oh, it's much better.
The one this year is crap.
Yeah.
Lack of excitement.
But you want to be back in it, but yeah.
I don't watch the Champions League games.
I mean, Bayern Munich losing games, like usually losing to Villa in a group stage game, you'd be like, that's a disaster because that's the 4th seed team, but doesn't matter. They're still going through and they've had a disaster start. Anyway, that tangent over.
Yes.
On to Chelsea, Jordan. Big game. How are you lining up? What you wanting? Any injury blows? No. According to Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
But he did confirm something that your story last week that never made the light of day, but we did allude to it this time last week with Dan Burn, because Dan Burn obviously cancelled talks with us on the Thursday. Obviously got injured ahead of that game, done his ankle. I can't say much more than that. I was going to give a bit more, but ultimately he was fine, got through the game. Yeah. And Eddie Howe did allude to that he was still like nursing that issue, but he'll be fine for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Newcastle's team. It's like how do you change it? How do you change it from last weekend? Formation would be want to really change it, but I'm thinking if you're going to stick to the 4-3-3, which I expect to happen, who'd you bring in?
Picks itself.
Who'd you bring in? I mean,
we were saying, I've said it's almost a desperate situation when Miguel Almiron
becomes
a bit of a consideration.
Because it's a like change, and they've almost fell back in that situation where Jacob Murphy hasn't really affected games in the last few at least. And then who's your backup? Well, it's Almiron because he's not going to play Anthony Gordon down the right. Because I don't think Anthony Gordon wants to play there.
No.
So I say that the Newcastle's perfect front 3 is Barnes, Gordon and Isak, but it just doesn't work.
It's far from perfect in practice.
So you probably always better putting an Almiron in. It's like, I think, I don't know if I've had this conversation on camera or off, but it's like, you look at Newcastle's team, there is players in there that probably aren't your best players on paper, but fit into a system, and I think probably Almiron or Murphy fit in there by default just because of the out and out right forwards. So I think that maybe that'll be the only change I would expect to see. Maybe Almiron coming. The midfield three, I think, as much as we've had discussions about Tonali, I don't think he warrants coming out of the team at all. I do think
we need to see more from him, but
I don't think he warrants coming out. Joe Linton, you need a similar type performance against Everton, because if he plays like that, he sets the tone away from home, which is really important. And then Bruno's your captain, and I would never take out.
There was a case
Bruno
made, I think, when we were talking in the pub, where do you play Joe Linton out on the left, because that's one of his better positions, and then you can almost change that midfield three. But then where do you put Gordon?
Down the right.
It's silly.
I think Sean Longstaff has to be in the team. I think the stats speak for themselves.
Change your mind?
No. Sorry.
Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton have to stay. But
so what I would do is I would actually, I'm using a U-turn here actually. I'll put Gordon on the right, Joe Linton on the left, Longstaff.
You disregard everything you've said.
No, it's because Gordon doesn't want to play on the right, and Howe doesn't want to play Eddie Howe on the right. But
Eddie Howe doesn't want to play himself on the right.
No, doesn't want to play Gordon on the right.
Sorry, Jordan.
Gordon will not play on the right hand side, but if I was to pick a team now, I would play.
If you're
Gordon.
Eddie Howe,
yes.
Okay.
But Gordon is better on the left hand side. It's just the problem is realistically they don't have very good right wingers, so it's trying to fix that problem. It
all goes back to the transfer window. But there is an interesting point about Sean Longstaff, and it always comes up. Sean Longstaff's record when he's in the team is good in terms of winning games. I think he's unbeaten this season when he started games, and Newcastle haven't won a game when he's been out the team. So the stats speak for himself, but Sean Longstaff isn't the difference maker, but he could be a facilitator for the likes of Bruno, for the likes of Tonali, Joe Linton. It's not pretty on the eye always, but is it for the betterment of the team?
I'll use Liam's example of Manchester United's title-winning team, or just team over the years. Darren Fletcher, for example, where Darren Fletcher, not a standout performer, not a sexy name, shall I say, but was a very successful part of the Alex Ferguson team that won titles. And
Park Ji-sung, players like that.
So I would compare that. Just purely on the basis the stats speak themselves. Newcastle don't.
Sean Longstaff's a pretty sexy name, to be fair.
Do you think? It is. Actually.
It is.
No, it is. It's sexier than Darren Fletcher.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Anyway, I think there's merit in putting Sean Longstaff in the team.
Yeah,
that's
but
my
then
opinion.
Also you go 3-game week. Naturally, does he come in the Carabao Cup game? We'll wait and see.
That's how
we're getting there
to leave.
The thumbs up to get out.
Get out.
Yeah.
11 minutes past. 7 minutes past 11.
So we spoke through our teams more or less. I think I'd just go unchanged bar Almiron. I'd put Almiron in for Murphy because we've got a bone to pick with Jacob Murphy taking the mick out of us trying to take a picture of Lewis Miley. Louis Miley, could he be on the bench again? I'd imagine so. He very much felt like the 20th man last week though. I was looking at the squad and it felt a bit premature to see him back, but I think he's someone, he made his debut at Stamford Bridge, we could see over these next 3 games, not starting, but we could certainly see get on the pitch. But I think if he's getting on the pitch on Sunday, something's either went very well or it's a roll of the dice from Eddie Howe later on.
Yeah, I'm just. Well, it'll be the Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff will be. We
need more from Joe Willock as well.
We do. We absolutely do.
That's one player who
a lot of fans had pinned
thought would be an answer for Newcastle.
There was a lot of people, a lot of fans, and maybe a lot of people in this room thought pinned the hopes on Joe Willock coming back firing because
Paul Mitchell did.
Yeah,
to a degree.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but we haven't seen that from him yet. We've seen it 30 seconds in the Forest, and then he went off injured and hasn't affected the game since. Got he started Fulham, didn't perform, so he needs to step up. As
do all of them, really.
Yeah, they need a performance this weekend. I think it's really tough as to get a result. Chelsea are firing again.
You never win at Chelsea either.
11 changes they made
because they can.
Yeah, and it wasn't just 11 changes. It was you could put that 11 out in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So they're a very strong team. Not ideal to play over 2 games. I think, and literally just field 2 start 11s.
Yeah.
But
hey, it's an important week for Newcastle, particularly the cup game, which I think is more important. But Eddie Howe said he takes it one game at a time. Classic managerial cliche speak. But we'll be at Chelsea, joined by Liam Kennedy. Yes?
Yep.
Who obviously, thanks again for everyone who tuned in to the live stream with Liam and Keith Patterson on Tuesday night, wasn't it? Great support from there. Liam,
Excellent.
we've spoke with Liam, Keith, both really touched by the feedback received, and it was great to see. So if you haven't checked that video out already, check it out. Some really illuminating stuff in there. It's a long watch, but
a lot of letters.
a lot of
If you like letters, have a look.
yeah. If you like the sort of mask of the Premier League being exposed, it's very good for that as well.
Yeah.
The cartel as well, getting a lot of mention.
Very
But,
much so.
check that out if you want to see it. And of course, all our videos are sponsored by Four Rivers Financial Planning for all of your holistic financial needs. Check them out, link in the description. And of course, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journals content. And thanks again for all your thanks donations paid for new mic, new tripod. And trains to London that we need to be getting as well. Yep. So thank you very much for that, and we'll see you at Stamford Bridge on Sunday. Cheers.